Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Our mission is always to take a complex, really layered concept and, distill it down for you, giving you that shortcut to being genuinely in the know. Today, we are immersing ourselves in a concept that's, it's a fundamental pillar of yogic philosophy, tapas in Adhuga Yoga. We're analyzing material provided by Sachin J, the founder and CEO of Energy and Personal Excellence, LLC, and we're drawing from the religious studies arm of his program. And this material offers frankly, an incredibly sophisticated and, I think most importantly, an actionable way to look at tapas. It moves it so far beyond that common idea of just, austerity. And a quick announcement before we begin. Sachin Karnik conducts daily satsang online. All are welcome to join.
It's so necessary to start with that clarity. I mean, when most people hear the word tapas, their mind immediately goes to someone, enduring something intense.
Right, like fasting for 40 days or standing on one leg.
Exactly. And while those things certainly involve a kind of effort, the sources we're looking at today define tapas as something much more internal, more universal. It's a necessary internal process. It's almost like a metabolic mechanism that's designed for refinement, for growth.
A metabolic mechanism. I like that.
Yeah, it's about leveraging the resistance that life inevitably throws at you, but doing it intentionally, not just, suffering through it passively.
Okay, let's unpack this. So, if the common idea is all about penance, but this more sophisticated view is about intentional leverage, then what exactly is tapas here? And why is it so fundamental to, the whole structure of Adhuga Yoga? We need the map before we start driving.
The map starts with Adhuga Yoga. For anyone listening, just as a quick refresher, this is the 8-limbed path that was systematized by the great sage Patanjali in the Yoga Sutras.
The 8 limbs, yeah. It's a progression, right? A step-by-step guide.
It is. It leads the practitioner from a state of, say, external chaos and internal messiness towards samadhi, which is the state of complete integration of spiritual clarity.
So it gives the practice a structure. It's not just what to do, but the order you do it in.
Precisely. And tapas isn't the whole journey. It's just one piece of one specific limb. It's located in the second limb, which is dedicated to the niyamas.
And that placement is important.
It's key. The first limb covers the yamas. Those are the moral restraints, how you behave outwardly. Things like nonviolence, ahimsa, and truthfulness, satya. They're about your ethical interactions with the world around you.
So if the yamas are about cleaning up how I interact with, say, my friends in my community,
yeah,
then the niyamas must be about cleaning up my own internal space.
That is the perfect way to put it, yes. The niyamas are the personal observances, the inner disciplines. They are the rules we place on our own thoughts, our own habits, and they really define the internal landscape of a sincere practitioner.
And there are 5 of them in total, right?
5 in total, and they all work together. They kind of support and balance each other out, which is a really important point.
Okay, let's slow down here for a second, because just listing 5 Sanskrit terms can be a bit much. Let's briefly touch on what each one does before we really zero in on tapas.
Good idea. So first you have sukha, which is purity. Both internal and external cleanliness. A clear mind needs a clean slate, so to speak.
Makes sense.
Second is santoya, which is contentment. It's about accepting what is, which is a powerful antidote to our, endless human wanting.
Mm-hmm.
Third is tapas, the discipline, effort, or transformative friction we're focusing on today. Fourth is svadhyaya, self-study and scriptural reflection, which makes sure our efforts are actually guided by wisdom.
So you're not just working hard, you're working smart.
Exactly. And fifth, and this is crucial, is ajvara parshidana. That's surrender to the divine will, which keeps the ego from hijacking the whole process and claiming all the credit.
Okay, that immediately brings up a question for me. If tapas is all about this intense effort and friction, then santana contentment seems like it's polar opposite.
Yeah.
How can you be striving intensely and be content at the same time?
That is a brilliant and very insightful question. Think of santana as the safety valve. It's the counterbalance.
Safety valve. How so?
Well, if you have intense effort, tapas, but you don't have contentment, what does that effort become? It becomes self-punishment. It becomes anxiety. It becomes burnout, driven by this egoic idea that I'm not good enough yet.
Right. It's coming from a place of lack.
Exactly. Santoa ensures you're striving not because you hate where you are, but because you joyfully accept where you are, while also dedicating yourself to becoming better. You're content now, but you're working toward the future.
That reframing is huge. It's effort without that desperate attachment to the outcome. It's driven by integrity, not by self-loathing.
You've got it.
Okay, so let's focus the lens now completely on tapas. If that simple idea of austerity is incomplete, what is the sophisticated, sort of multidimensional meaning we need to be using?
Well, austerity implies suffering for its own sake, which is actually counterproductive to the goal of yoga, which is harmony. The sophisticated definition is that tapas is conscious effort aligned with integration, refinement, and inner strength.
Oh, just effort.
Yes, it's the intentional application of your energy to spark a change in your fundamental state of being. It has to be dynamic, transformative. It can't just be restrictive for the sake of it.
This sounds like it's leading us to that foundational equation you mentioned, the guiding formulation that puts this all into context.
It is. This is the mechanism laid bare. It defines tapas as a kind of spiritual alchemy. The formulation is tapas, conscious friction, plus sustained awareness, refinement of being.
Okay, let's spend a moment on each part of that. Conscious friction. That's the action, right? The effort, the choice to face the discomfort. But just friction alone isn't enough. If I just work hard without that next piece, what happens?
If you just have friction without the sustained awareness, you just have suffering. It's exhaustion. It's like banging your head against a wall. The awareness component makes the friction targeted.
Ah, okay.
It means you are watching how the resistance is showing up, where it is in your mind and body, and why it's coming up. That sustained observational awareness is what makes the friction productive.
And the result of that is the whole point. Refinement of being. It's not just about doing a thing, it's about changing the quality of the person doing the thing. That discomfort becomes a catalyst.
It becomes a catalyst for evolution, a deliberate, focused effort toward a higher quality of self.
And that idea of a catalyst leads us perfectly into the central metaphor from the source material.
It does. Tapas is the yogic metabolism of resistance. This analogy it grounds this very philosophical concept in biology, which is something every single person can understand.
Let's really get into that analogy. So, biological metabolism takes food, nutrients, complex stuff, and turns it into usable energy for the body.
Right. Strength, life-sustaining compounds.
So if tapas is yogic metabolism, what's the food it's processing?
Yeah.
And what's the energy it's creating?
The food, the raw input, is all the resistance we face in life. And this can be anything. Physical fatigue, the psychological pull of procrastination, an emotional reaction, an external challenge, anything.
It's everywhere.
It is. And this yogic metabolism takes that inevitable resistance, the friction, the inertia, and transforms it into usable spiritual capital. Things like clarity, inner strength, and genuine insight. It takes what could be waste and turns it into potent fuel.
This is where it gets really, really interesting for me. Because if you look at the specific transformations outlined, you can see this metabolism working in real time. The source says tapas is the art of converting. First, just daily discomfort into strength. I push past that initial, I don't want to do this feeling, and over time I build resilience.
Yes.
Converting temptation into focus. So instead of just scattering my energy, chasing every distraction, I'm refining my attention. And third, converting external adversity into insight. So the hardship isn't just something to be endured, it's something to be analyzed for the lesson it contains. It sounds incredibly potent, a guaranteed way to grow from literally every experience.
It is, because resistance is always there. And we need to be clear, this isn't about seeking out huge, dramatic challenges. It often starts with very simple internal commitments.
Like what?
Well, the example given in the source is committing to wake up for your spiritual practice, your sadhana, at 5 a.m.
Ah, the classic battle with the alarm clock.
Right, when that alarm goes off, your whole body-mind system just mounts a defense. It's this powerful resistance rooted in comfort and inertia. It's physical and it's psychological. Similarly, the source talks about the demands of an ashrama, a spiritual training center, where you might have to wake up at 3:30 or 4 in the morning. That is hard. But that deliberate, repetitive engagement with the resistance trains the whole system to follow instructions no matter how it feels.
So that 5-minute battle with the snooze button, that's not just me being lazy. That's the ashati, the impurity that needs to be metabolized. That daily friction is the actual food for tapas.
Precisely. The core teaching is that you have to utilize that resistance consistently, and it trains the system through rhythm, regularity, and resolve. You don't just defeat the resistance one time, you break through it every single day just by sticking to the rule, the niyama.
And this focus on regularity is so important. It brings us back to the meaning of niyama itself. It's a deliberate regulation, right? Setting the right time for the right action.
Yes. And the source material gives this powerful example of the daily satsang, the spiritual discourse, that is maintained with near unbroken consistency. 360 days out of 365. That kind of routine requires an immense amount of tapas from everyone involved.
Can only imagine.
That unwavering collective regularity is the very essence of tapas in action. It builds what the tradition calls Sakti inner power, vitality. When a large group engages in chanting mantras or kirtans at the same time every single day, you build an energetic momentum that is so much greater than what one person can do alone.
It becomes a kind of gravitational force.
A gravitational internal force that supports everyone's individual effort. It makes it easier to show up.
And this momentum is more than just self-discipline, isn't it? It creates an environment where not doing the practice becomes the harder choice.
Exactly. And you see this in other structured practices, things like Ekadash, which is the bi-monthly fasting day, or the strict practice of Nitya Puja, daily personal worship. That has to be done before you eat or drink anything. This discipline isn't about random denial. It's about setting a clear, non-negotiable boundary, a container for the transformation to happen in.
Let's talk more about that boundary setting. Life is so chaotic and constant. Why is setting that kind of deliberate boundary so critical for this yogic metabolism?
Because if we just see life as this constant stream of undigested experiences, and we don't place them inside a boundary, a moment of pause, reflection, discipline, our consciousness just gets scattered, diffused.
Pulled in a million directions.
A million directions. So yogic metabolism means we take the day-to-day stuff, the friction, the challenges, the joys, and we process it within that boundary of a niyama, like the fast or the daily prayer. And that processing is what transforms the raw experience into refined energy, or into a better quality of devotion, of bhakti. Without the container, there's no refinement. There's just diffusion and eventually burnout.
You mentioned bhakti devotion. This brings up an important question about effort and grace. If tapas is all about our intentional effort, does that mean our effort alone guarantees the final result?
This is a very profound point, especially from the bhakti perspective.
Yeah.
Sadhana, the effort, the tapas on its own, no, it doesn't guarantee ultimate realization. That's seen as an act of grace.
So what's the point of the effort then?
The effort proves your sincerity. It proves your longing. It's you showing the divine, look, I am applying my 100%. I am willing to meet you halfway. And when that sincere effort is coupled with Ijavatra Chidana, that surrender to God we talked about, then grace is activated. The divine sees the effort and the longing, and that grace dissolves the obstacles that our effort alone just can't overcome.
So it's not one or the other, it's both.
It's both. And the ultimate goal, according to the sources, is to get to a state where the resistance itself just dissolves, where action becomes effortless, spontaneous, and joyful.
It's like the difference between rowing a boat through a storm and just raising the sails to catch the wind. Tapas is the work you do to clear the deck so the wind can actually do its job.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
The source also mentioned this concept of the hour of power. How does that fit in?
The hour of power is this really practical, almost revolutionary take on tapas. It asks the question, why does discipline have to feel like a painful grind? It doesn't have to. If you take each hour of your day and you make it powerful meaning, you live it with full awareness, with joy, with purpose, dedicating the best quality energy you have to whatever you're doing. That intentional, focused living, hour after hour, that is a form of tapas.
So it redefines discipline as high-quality living, not just grim endurance.
Exactly. It's a game changer.
Okay, so we've established that the friction of tapas transforms resistance. Now let's talk about the specific purpose of that friction. Purification. What is this yogic metabolism actually targeting?
The target is ashuddhika. It means the destruction or the dissolution of impurities. And the sources are very clear that this is a comprehensive idea. It's not just one thing. It applies across multiple dimensions of our being.
So not just physical stuff.
Not just physical toxins, but also these really deep-seated psychological and mental blocks. Tapas gives us the fire to burn away everything that's holding us back on the spiritual path.
Let's break those dimensions down, starting with the one that I think often gets ignored in these kinds of spiritual conversations, the physical.
1. Physical toxins and impurities. This is the foundation. It has to be. If your body is chronically sick or exhausted and neglected, it just can't be a reliable vehicle for higher practices. It's that simple.
So what does physical tapas look like in this context?
It means ensuring your body is the healthiest possible vessel it can be. Getting your diet right, your exercise right, your mind-body connection, and crucially, managing your medication and existing health conditions properly. A spiritual person must be the most physically responsible person.
So it's about taking responsibility.
Complete responsibility. Sticking to your doctor's appointments, drinking enough water, avoiding things you know are bad for you, proactively preventing more damage. Even the small, persistent effort of taking a required vitamin every day or going for a walk when you don't feel like it, that is a profound form of tapas. You are breaking the internal resistance to taking care of yourself.
I think a lot of people miss that. They see spirituality as this purely mental thing, but just doing the boring, responsible stuff, the preventative maintenance on your body, is actually a spiritual act.
It is a spiritual act because it prepares the vessel for higher work. You have to recognize that your physical being is integral to the journey. But then, of course, the purification, the Ashuddhikaya, goes much deeper.
Into the psychological realm.
Into the mental and emotional landscape, which, let's be honest, is often far more cluttered than our physical bodies.
Which brings us to 2. Psychological obstructions. What are the specific inner enemies that tapas is designed to burn away?
The source lists this powerful quartet of inner contaminants: laziness, doubt, distraction, and self-pity. And to that, we have to add indulgence and internal negativity. These are the Ashuddhi. They cloud our judgment, they sabotage our best intentions, and they drain our precious energy, our Shakti.
So tapas forces us to confront them.
It forces a conscious engagement with them so they don't just become our default operating system. Take laziness. What is it? It's resistance to the action needed now for a benefit later. Tapas applies friction right at that point of inertia to get you moving.
In self-pity.
A massive energy drain. It focuses all your attention inward in this negative feedback loop. Tapas demands that you move past that story you're telling yourself and take focused action anyway.
It's fascinating because all of these impurities, they seem to boil down to a lack of willpower or a lack of executive energy, which leads to this crucial point from the sources about the difference between knowing something and actually doing it.
This is the absolute core purpose of tapas when it comes to wisdom. We all have a ton of jhana, or knowledge. We know we should eat better, we know we should save money, or be kinder to our families, or meditate. But so often we just don't do it.
The knowing-doing gap.
Exactly. And the resistance that tapas breaks is that internal barrier that stops us from applying the wisdom we already have. That application is called jhana shakti, the power of applied knowledge.
So jhana is the map, but jhana shakti is the fuel and the engine to actually drive the car.
That's it. You know you need to save money, that's jhana. But every time you get paid, indulgence or distraction wins and you spend it. That's the ashuddhi. Jhana shakti is the discipline, the tapas, that creates the friction to override that impulse and stick to the plan. It's the executive energy for conscious living.
So when you finally break through and do the thing you know you should do, that is tapasya.
That is tapasya. You are converting theoretical wisdom into embodied reality.
So to make this even more practical, we can turn to classic scripture. The Bhagavad Gita, right? It gives a very specific roadmap.
It does. Chapter 17, verses 14 through 16, provides this incredibly useful structured guide. It outlines 3 specific forms of tapas, which tells us exactly where we need to apply this conscious friction.
Okay, let's go through them one by one. Body, speech, and mind. Starting with the most tangible one.
Sharika tapas, or physical tapas.
So a physical tapas is more than just waking up early or going to the gym. What does this daily physical discipline really look like?
Sharika tapas is all about creating an external order that actively supports internal clarity. And the structure has 3 main pillars: simplicity, cleanliness, and moderation.
Okay, let's start with simplicity.
Simplicity means living without a lot of excess. And the source gives this surprising but really powerful example. It says that internal poverty is often revealed by constantly accumulating unnecessary things.
Like what?
The example given is having 50 or 75 pairs of shoes. The question isn't whether you can afford them, it's about need and attention. When are you going to wear them all? That accumulation points to a poverty of spirit, a constant search for fulfillment in external things that can never deliver.
So physical simplicity isn't just about minimalism for aesthetics.
Yeah.
It's an active practice of rejecting the clutter that drains your mental energy.
Exactly. Next is cleanliness, or shaka. The sources are adamant about this. External order is mandatory. You know the old saying, cleanliness is next to godliness.
Mm-hmm.
The home environment, especially the kitchen, should be treated like a mandir, a temple. The simple acts of vacuuming the carpet, making sure everything is in its proper place, these are profound forms of tapas. They are small, consistent efforts that create a peaceful, uncluttered environment which directly mirrors the internal state you're trying to cultivate.
That makes perfect sense. If my physical space is a chaotic mess, my mind will reflect that. The act of cleaning is a physical practice of mental discipline.
It absolutely is. And finally, you have moderation, the middle way, or Madhyama Marga. This is maybe the most practical and universal form of physical tapas.
The middle way.
It's the active rejection of extremes. We live in a world that constantly pushes us toward hyperstimulation, overindulgence in food, in media, in comfort. But then on the other side, some spiritual seekers go to the opposite extreme of, harmful austerity, damaging fast, painful denial. That's just as destabilizing.
So it's finding the balance.
Finding the balance. The Madhyama Marga is taught everywhere in the Gita, by the Buddha, by Jesus, by Guru Nanak, because life cannot be lived sustainably at the extremes. Sharika tapas requires you to find that moderate, balanced path that respects the body but denies it excessive gratification.
Okay, from the body to speech. This is a big one. Vamaya tapas, verbal discipline. This is where I think most people, myself included, admit they fail most often.
It's a crucial area because a lack of restraint with our words can cause permanent damage. The source is very clear that a single sentence spoken out of anger or frustration can destroy years of a relationship. It's a kind of spiritual and relational bleeding.
So the discipline, what's the framework?
The Gita gives a 4-part framework. Your speech must be gentle, truthful, beneficial, and pleasing. And notice, all 4 have to be there.
All 4.
All 4. You can say something that's true, but if it's not gentle or beneficial, like a brutal criticism, that is not tapas. Often, if you can't check all 4 boxes, the best tapas is silence.
That requires a huge amount of conscious friction, just to pause and filter your reaction through those 4 criteria. How do you make sure that the sweetness is genuine and not just, manipulative?
That is a vital point the sources make. True verbal tapas requires that sweetness to come from the heart, not just be a mask on the surface. The source warns against having that saccharine sweetness on your tongue, but poison in your heart.
Right, using it for flattery or passive aggression.
Exactly. If the intention is impure, the tapas doesn't count. The effort has to be toward genuine, heart-centered compassion.
And how does this practice deal with being provoked? Because life is full of difficult people.
It demands that you develop steadiness and tolerance, a quality called kama. When someone provokes you, says something deeply frustrating or unfair, the discipline is to not react immediately. Tolerance is the ability to just hold that space, to absorb the provocation without instantly firing back.
It's like being a shock absorber.
It is. And that pause, that kama, allows your intelligence, guided by devotion, bhakti, and prayer, prarthana, to decide how to respond, or if you should respond at all. The principle is you should only expect the highest standard of conduct from yourself, not from others. When they act out of their impurity, your tapas is to maintain your own purity by refusing to join their chaos.
We saved the hardest for last, the mind, the restless monkey. How on earth do you apply manasa tapas, the discipline of thought?
Manasa tapas, or mental purity, it requires constant vigilance. This is where the internal friction is at its absolute peak, because the thing you're trying to discipline thought itself is invisible and it's ceaseless.
So what are the components?
The core components are serenity, silence, and self-control. Serenity is the calmness, the stability. Silence is the ability to quiet that nonstop internal chatter. And self-control is the moment-to-moment, intentional directing of your thoughts toward what is beneficial. It means refusing to indulge a thought once you see it's a destructive one.
So you're actively managing your mental landscape, not just passively receiving whatever pops into your head.
Exactly. And the source mentions the crucial necessity of wishing well. This is huge. It means you do not harbor negative thoughts, resentment, or hatred toward anyone. Not your neighbor, not a difficult colleague, not even a political figure you disagree with.
Why is that so important? I mean, sometimes those feelings feel justified.
They might feel justified, but the hatred and negativity contaminate your inner space. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to get sick. It damages your own internal sakti, your own purity. Mental tapas is the friction required to consciously dissolve those negative judgments and actively cultivate goodwill toward everyone, regardless of their actions.
That's a powerful way to frame it. It's spiritual self-defense. By wishing others well, you're protecting your own inner world from toxicity.
It is the ultimate form of internal cleansing, and the source provides this just, profound, aspirational standard for this practice, the example of Pramukh Swami Maharaj. He was asked what thought he had never had in his life, and he replied that he had never, not once, harbored a single thought wishing harm upon anyone.
Wow. Just let that sink in for a second. That is the aspirational standard.
That is the pinnacle of mental tapas. It's not just about acting kindly. It's about controlling the very source of all action, the thought itself, striving for an inner state where no negative, critical, or malicious thought has ever been allowed to take root. That is spiritual success.
Okay, we've broken down these three huge levels of practice: physical, verbal, and mental. The scope is enormous.
Yeah.
So what is the one single unifying discipline that ties all this together? Where do we focus our energy?
The master key is radical. It is 100% self-attention. There's this simple, elegant teaching from Bhagavan Swaminarayan and the Swaminarayan tradition that provides this focus. Tat swasavika dayam.
Which means
Keep attention on your development.
just on your own development.
Just on your own. It's so practical and it's ruthlessly honest. The fundamental truth is you cannot improve other people. We spend so much mental and verbal energy trying to fix our family, correct our colleagues, reform the world, argue on the internet. But tapas teaches that the only person you have the power to truly change is yourself. You have zero power to change anyone else's consciousness. The focus must be 100% on your own evolution.
That is a massive paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Almost sounds like a rejection of external action
Yeah.
in favor of this deep internal work.
Yeah.
But doesn't that risk becoming isolationist? If I stop trying to change the world and only focus on myself.
You'd think so, but that's not the promise. The promise in the source material is that when you make true spiritual progress through this sincere, focused self-attention, the right external connections, the resources you need, the harmonious relationships, they start to happen automatically.
Automatic.
Because you are no longer operating from your ahakara, your ego, trying to force an outcome out of fear or a sense of lack, you're acting from this aligned, pure inner space. And when help or success flows to you from that centered place, you recognize it as grace, not as a victory for your ego. When your internal world is in order, the external world starts to reflect that harmony.
That concept immediately puts this whole discipline into a much larger context. It connects our personal tapas to the cosmic scale. It's not just a human exercise.
No, this is the profound depth you get from the Upanyadic view. Tapas isn't just a human discipline. It is the generative principle of creation itself. This shifts our understanding from self-help to universal law. The entire cosmos, reality itself, comes into being because Brahman, the absolute consciousness, performs a kind of divine self-concentration, a cosmic tapas.
Wait, ground that for me. What does it mean for Brahma to perform tapas?
It means that before the universe manifested, there was a period of intense, focused self-concentration by the Absolute. That divine focus built up the potential energy needed for creation. All of creation is the result of that initial, intentional, focused effort. Manifestation is preceded by self-concentration.
So when I, as an individual, focus my energy, when I apply tapas to overcome the urge to hit the snooze button at 5 a.m.,
Yeah.
I am, in a small way, mirroring that original divine creative force of the universe.
That is the astonishing realization.
Yes.
Your small daily act of self-discipline, when you do it with sustained awareness, links you directly to that ultimate cosmic principle. It makes the mundane feel monumental. You are participating in the creative process by focusing your own fragmented energy.
Wow.
And this principle of serving the cosmos through personal discipline is upheld by the great saints. The sources mention Badari Kashrama in the Himalayas. The belief is that the great sages there are continuously performing profound tapas, not for their own enlightenment, which they've already achieved, but for the welfare and benefit of the entire world.
So the highest discipline serves everyone.
It serves global good, which means you don't have to retreat to a cave in the Himalayas to practice this.
Right.
Your current life, your job, your family, your community, that becomes your ishrama, your hermitage. When you live it with awareness and disciplined effort, every challenge becomes your field for refinement. You bring the monastery into the marketplace.
And this integration brings us full circle, back to that operational core of the yogic metabolism we started with. This crucial, non-negotiable idea of conserving your Shakti, your inner power.
This is the operational core. Our internal Shakti must never be damaged. It must never be depleted by careless actions, reactive speech, or these psychological impurities. Recognizing that your spiritual energy is precious and finite. That's the master key that opens all the doors. If we let laziness or anger or gossip drain our Shakti, we have nothing left for the higher pursuits. We're spiritually bankrupt.
So once we use tapas to conserve this Shakti, what is it for? Where do we direct it?
It's directed toward positive outflow. It's used for seva, selfless service, for bhakti, devotion, for doing our worldly duties with the highest quality of excellence, And it's also dedicated to enjoyment, which brings us to the right way to interact with experience.
Yeah, the traditional view often makes it seem like a choice between total suppression of desires or total indulgence. How does tapas find a balance with worldly enjoyment?
Tapas gives us that middle way by maintaining the necessary boundary. It's not suppression, which just leads to psychological problems, and it's not reckless indulgence, which leads to your energy being scattered. Worldly experiences are not rejected. They are brought into the overall domain of spiritual realization and conservation.
So it's about transmutation, not denial?
Exactly. We use the friction of tapas to make sure our experiences are transmuted, elevated. Instead of letting them get trapped in the ego, the ahakara, where we're always thinking, I am the enjoyer or I am the sufferer, we use them as raw material for transformation. We acknowledge the experience, learn from it, and integrate it without letting the ego get attached and drain our conserved Shakti. It's the art of living fully, but without that fragmentation.
That distinction is massive. Integration versus fragmentation. You're not denying life, you're just making sure life serves your growth instead of draining your power.
Exactly. And the source material offers this incredible final promise. It says that if these concepts, drawn from Patanjali's Yoga Sutras and Sanatana Dharma, are applied sincerely, if we really commit and don't back off, then Jivan Mukti, steady liberation while you are still living, is attainable in this very life.
Liberation while living. That's a promise that carries so much weight. It's not some far-off after-death reward. It's the realized state of freedom and integration that's accessible right here, right now, through this sustained, focused effort.
It is. Tapas is the engine for realizing your fullest potential today. It's the constant process of burning away the impurities that are just obscuring the light that's already within you.
This deep dive has been so clarifying. We started with this, grim idea of harsh austerity, and we've ended up with the realization that tapas is this beautiful engine of refinement, this yogic metabolism that turns resistance into power, all guided by a 100% focus on your own development.
So as you go about your week, maybe ask yourself this. Considering those three levels, from the get to physical, verbal, and mental, which of those areas requires the most focused, non-resistant effort in your life right now? Where are you letting the most psychological impurity, the most ashuddhi, accumulate? That exact point of friction, that's where your yogic metabolism needs to begin today.
A perfect provocative thought to anchor our efforts. Thank you so much for guiding us through this challenging, but I think ultimately very liberating concept. For more information, please contact Sachin J. Karnik at the email address provided in the description box.
Sudorada Kainama.